Good morning, Council. Thanks for having me. I apologize. You have to bear with me. I've been fighting a cold and I've lost my voice a bit, so I'm trying to make sure I'm understandable. So I wanted to start today with some clarity around the purpose of Wichita Animal Services. The makeup of animal control and animal shelters can vary widely based on a community's needs, and it can sometimes get confused with other types of animal welfare organizations. Wichita Animal Services focuses on creating a safe community for our residents through the enforcement of state statutes and city ordinances. For example, through state statutes, we are managing things like bite reports, rabies quarantines, specimen testing, and ensure compliance with the Pet Animal Act. And Title VI of our city ordinance is really our guidebook for protecting pets and their people regarding licenses, limits, neglect, and cruelty, animal and neglect laws. That is really where we follow to make sure, as a result, that we then have that animal shelter that we manage in compliance with our sheltering regulations. Our facility and operations are designed to provide a safe and clean environment for animals lost and found in our community so they can be reunited with their owners. Our facility is also designed to house domestic animals in need of quarantines and confiscations. The bulk of our employee base is going to be animal control officers, which we refer to as ACOs. They're going to be all cross-trained in both shelter and field work. When assigned to the field, our officers' duties often include responding to citizen complaints, which can be picking up a loose animal or a complete investigation. When assigned to the shelter, ACOs are going to be responsible for ensuring kennels and other areas of the shelter are cleaned daily, animals are fed and examined daily, and provide over-the-counter service for animal intakes, animal pickup, and a variety of other community needs. I thought it would be valuable for us to review the priorities that we navigate for incoming calls for service. When someone contacts Wichita Animal Services, the call will go to an ACO who is dispatching the call while also working on other duties. Depending on the call's priority and how many calls of which type come in will determine how fast an ACO can get to that call. This chart lays out some of the examples of where call priority can lie, but this of course isn't going to cover the many different varieties that occur. Priority one is going to be basically a bite, attack, injuries, aggressive animals running at large, or severe neglect case. A priority two could be an animal who has bitten or attacked someone but is already confined, follow up on an investigation, or a compliance check for a dangerous dog, and so on. Let's see here. I wanted to show you guys, we receive about 14,000 calls for service annually. And it's about 40 a day. It averages pretty well. At least 10 of those each day are going to be a priority one. You'll see these in order by priority and color-coded by type. Most priority ones that you see here in Navy are also going to take a little bit longer to manage. They typically involve something like an aggressive animal, a person with an injury, visits to a hospital or jail. They also require significant paperwork associated with rabies, bite reports, evidence and witness collection statements so that we can compile a full investigation. They sometimes entail securing animals' emergency medical care or providing assistance to our police on a criminal case. We're then that same day going to receive at least another 10 priority two calls. Those are often going to require just as much to manage. So that's why when we talk about public safety, we want the public to understand that it's not that a nuisance complaint is unimportant to our department, but securing an animal who is causing life-threatening damage to someone or something, or has that capability is always going to be our priority in that moment. We typically have about 2 ACOs in the field on any given day from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then we have one person that's on standby over each night for other types of emergency calls.
Are priority one calls still rising? I know they have been the past couple of years. Do we still see a steady increase in that?
That is, and that's likely contributed in correlation with our overpopulation. As our population as a city as a whole, not the human population, but the animal population increases. Those priority ones that are going to involve animals running at large that then can turn into like an aggressive, a bite or attack, those are going to increase with that.
And is it mostly the core that we see that activity still increasing with dilapidated fences and?
Yeah, I haven't actually done the study and data to review exactly where we're going to see the priority of those calls, but that's something that I hope to dig into soon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. This is going to be a high-level view of the flow of animals through the shelter. Animals can be brought in from the field, from an ACO like we just talked about. If it's a bite or attack or some type of confiscation, it's likely to remain at the shelter for 10 to 30 days. If a found animal comes in over the counter or from one of our field officers, we're going to hold that animal for 3 full business days after the intake day. Most of the animals are going to encounter a weekend during their stray hold, so that's going to leave them waiting for their owners about 5 days a week, or 5 days in that period. During that time, KHS is going to come over and complete an assessment on the animal to see if it seems suitable for their adoptions program. This is a common area of confusion. There are some agencies who choose to publicly misrepresent exactly what this assessment means, so I'm going to touch a bit more on that in a minute. If KHS is able to take the animal, they communicate with our team and schedule within their internal department's next step. Typically, that's going to be scheduling the animal for surgery, but in other cases, it could be going into their foster program if it has needs before it's ready for adoption. It could also go into their canine behavior program or their barn cat program. If KHS isn't able to take an animal, they will notate those constraints. It could be due to a lack of space at their shelter, in which case the animals is going to be labeled in our system as resources. That lets our rescue partners know that the animal seems healthy and friendly, but there is no available space at either of our shelters. The animals are listed also as what we call a direct adoption. What a direct adoption means that if somebody from the public wants to adopt an animal, they can still do that through KHS. It's just that KHS isn't able to bring that animal onto their adoption floor because they don't have the space, and so they can't provide those visits and such for them. What happens is that the person can call to adopt the animal, KHS can schedule their surgery and getting them ready for that, and then the person will pick them up directly that day, right from WAS to KHS. That animal, those direct adopts, friendly resource space ones, are also available to transfer to any of our rescue partners. Some animals will be labeled as behavior due to concerns that pose warnings for the open adoptions program, or they can be labeled as medical because there's a medical need that their team isn't able to meet. Although KHS does provide behavior programs and extensive special medical treatment for thousands of the animals at Wichita Animal Services each year, they can't meet all of the needs by themselves. That's where our rescue programs come in. Once the assessment is received from KHS, it's going to be about the average number of animals that come in a day, so about 30. Rescue team and internal rescue teams are notified, and we post the animal to our rescue networks, which I'm going to go over in a second. Some people get confused about this process, rightfully so. It's very nuanced. It's going to require focused attention on the space that's currently available, that day's intakes, and it's going to require us to look at the outcomes that we're going to expect, the season's averages at each individual shelter, and extensive communications between each facility. It also requires the work of multiple departments and outside agencies. Due to the vigorous pace of each individual day at the shelter and the high number of animals processed, multiple teams of people have to be flexible in order to save as many lives as possible. For an example, on assessment day, which is normally about 24 hours from an animal coming in, the city shelter, KHS has to anticipate the number of kennels that they're going to have open based off of their current population and trends. But I know that you guys probably understand that in dealing with live animals and depending upon multiple departments of humans, guessing how many people are going to come in to adopt each day and how many of those are actually going to take home an animal is really like a guesswork. We can put a lot of statistics and a lot of thoughts into it, but we can't control what is outside of our control. So what that means is that even if KHS tags an animal to be transferred, there's a large number of variables that happen between assessment day and then the first day that the animal's actually available to leave Wichita Animal Services for transfer. It can be anything from the animal's return to their owner, they might start to show symptoms of a contagious disease, a test result could come back like heartworm positive, and then on the actual day of transfer, we have another set of variables that can happen for those animals. For example, KHS, just like WAS. Did you have a question, Mike?
Oh, I'll
No,
let you
sorry, I
finish.
thought you
Yeah.
were pointing. So KHS, just like WAS, has designated areas for different types of animals, like puppies, for example. So while we may have 2 litters of puppies at WAS that KHS has said, yes, we're going to take and transfer those over, on the day that those puppies are available to be transferred, they might have had slow puppy adoptions that week, which means they might already have 25 puppies in their shelter and their puppy loft is full. So the day that they were anticipating to bring our puppies over, they don't have the space available to do that. And that can happen in so many different varieties of our animals, the situation with that, not to mention other variables that lie within their running a high-volume spay-neuter clinic at a shelter like KHS does. Basically, what that means is that animals are able to cleanly transfer from WAS to KHS every single day that we need them to. And that, again, requires that flexibility and paying close attention to the different parts of population. What I'm really trying to get at here is that even though these are nuanced processes, both of our teams are working together 7 days a week to make sure that we're finding the best outcome for each animal. People can get confused when trying to compare us to other shelters because we operate 2 side-by-side facilities. And the makeups in other communities are different. While these public-private partnerships exist all over the country, they exist in so many different ways. And nobody seems to have really found the perfect solution. But our partnership is serving the purpose that it's meant to. We're saving more than double the lives of our 2 old separate facilities, and we're constantly working towards those improvements.
Okay, a few questions.
Yeah.
So what happens if an animal is tagged by the Humane Society? Does that mean they're completely taken out of the process, or are they still available on your guys' end for things like adoption?
Good question. So again, that's kind of where things fall into a nuanced process. And Aaron from KHS is here. Both of our leadership teams and as directors, we have to communicate on that stuff on a regular basis. The intention is that if KHS tags an animal, it's supposed to be transferring to them for adoption. So their goal is that as soon as its stray hold is up, which is going to be around those 5 days, they want to transfer it that next morning to have surgery and get ready for adoption. But because those nuanced processes can happen, it's really unclear. If somebody from the public wants to adopt it, any animal within our facility, they can always call KHS and place what's called an adoption hold. Then what that does is it reserves the animal for them as soon as it's able to have its surgery and be ready to go. If they want to do that through a rescue partner, they can also do that. If an animal has extensive medical needs or behavior, or it's not ready for that surgery, like they could be emaciated or ill, something like that, or just not safe enough for the surgery team to handle, that's where we work with our rescue partners and try to connect somebody with them that has the resources to transfer that. And
they have the vet that comes over and takes a look? Is that through AHS as well?
KHS, yeah.
Oh, yeah, KHS.
No, you're okay. So we separately from the joint operations that I'm talking about here with transferring animals and everything, we utilize them for a veterinary contract. And the reason being is that we have to have veterinary services in order to function. We used to hire a third-party vet that was off location. And while that was still serving the need that we needed, they're coming over from wherever their facility is to do a walkthrough once a day and provide medical care. Whereas having KHS next door, who has a team of vets vet techs and other resources that are available to us are right there next door, so that we're able to get care faster for the animals that we need. We're able to have a better comprehensive understanding of those animals. And there's also a big difference in shelter medicine versus private practice medicine. It's a whole separate veterinary degree, and it can really help us make sure that we're creating congruity where we need to in disease management for the whole shelter.
So how often do they come over and inspect the animals?
Just the veterinarian or staff from the
Veterinarian care.
They're going to be there at least once a day. So, just as part of our, regular operations, they have multiple teams of people that have eyes on every animal in our facility several times a day.
Okay, do we know what the open kennel rates at KHS are?
Well, go ahead. Come on in.
Oh, just after the mic, yeah.
Our current open kennel rate at KHS is about 20% for both dogs and cats. Capacity for care standards, which are outlined by the Association for Shelter Vets, say that all shelters should be maintaining about 25% of their kennel space empty at all times. That's so that you can respond to emergency situations, but also so you can provide adequate and humane care to every animal that's in your shelter. And unfortunately, animal welfare organizations are not overflowing with staff. So we all try to stick around that 75% rate, which is sort of the gold standard for where we want to be. Anything beyond that, for instance, I started in 2023, we were at 100% most of the time, and we were in a disease outbreak all the time. So anything beyond that, and you're overstressing animals, you're not allowing them to be properly spaced. So we try to maintain between 70 and 80% kennel space at all times.
Aaron, can you give your title?
I'm sorry, Aaron Walker. I'm the CEO for Kansas Humane Society.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you held to the same state guidelines that the animal shelter is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have there been any issues with that here in the last couple of years?
Last year, we had our first failed inspection for a couple of minor, like paint issues that were in our kennels that needed to be fixed. So we redid all of our adoption suites in the fall of 2024 to make sure that we came into compliance. We've had 2 or 3 inspections since then and have been in compliance completely, just as we were prior.
And you guys are beholden to the new standards that they have, the state's reinterpretation of some of their policies as far as moving sick animals?
Yes, sir. In March 2024, the Kansas Department of Agriculture reinterpreted some of their rules around transfer of sick animals. Most of our rules for companion animals are based on livestock regulations, and the Kansas Livestock Association is very powerful. And so getting them to change and getting them to create a separate structure of statutes for companion animals has not been something the state of Kansas has been willing to do. Because of this new interpretation, any animal that is suspected or known to have a contagious or infectious illness cannot transfer from one shelter to another. We can transfer them, as I think Emily will talk about, we can transfer them to a veterinary clinic, but they are required to stay at that clinic until they are clear of that infectious or contagious disease, which is not something most of our general practice vet clinics are able to do.
Okay, and there's been no movement on that, has there?
Very little. The most recent regulation that was, they've proposed about 5 rounds of regulation revisions since all this happened in March 2024. The most recent is at the Department of Administration now, and it does allow for transfer of sick animals, but we don't believe it will be passed for another 6 to 9 months probably through the process.
Okay, you have a number as far as animals that move through, dogs, cats, and compared to years past that move through your?
Yeah.
So, And I'll let him speak to that as well, but when you mean, what, are you talking about contagious animals, or are you talking about
Just
all
animals,
animals?
period.
So
I mean, I know we have such a high number coming through now. I'm just wondering how many that we've been successful in moving through, either working with KHS, other partners in the community, and just in general. Is that number rising? Is it steady?
It's pretty steady. So the intake at our facility has remained rather steady, right around 9,000 animals on our intake side, and KHS's transfer of animals that they actually place up for adoption has remained right around 4,000 to 5,000, and then about another 1,500 go to rescues, which are right about that same amount. We'll fluctuate a couple hundred here and every year or so, but it's about the same. What we're really noticing is that the overpopulation, especially for people who own their animals and want to relinquish them, is consistently raising. And the number of people coming, the thing is that even though our intake is remaining about the same each year, you have to think that most of those are going to be new animals. And so I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute as well, is our population, how much it fluctuates, and what we're seeing is an overpopulation in our community due to lack of spay and neuter services.
Yep, okay, appreciate that.
Yeah, I would just add on to that. We definitely were able to transfer fewer neonate kittens and other sick animals that would have had a live outcome a year prior to March of 2024. That number was probably in the 1,000 to 2,000 range across the entire year of animals that we would have been able to transfer that under the current system we can't, which is why you've seen euthanasia rates go up both at WAS and at KHS, because if a cat gets sick, for instance, we can't place that cat in a foster home. It either gets better in the shelter, or we have to euthanize it to maintain humane care for not only that animal, but for all the rest of the animals that are around it. So not great decisions that have had to be made when we know that there were live outcomes that were available. But we've been really pushing. We worked with a lobbyist to try to get some traction. We've been working with statewide groups to try to get traction, and we're hoping that we're finally getting there, but we still got a little bit left.
Could you delve more into puppies and kittens and kind of the challenges around that?
Tell me what you mean by the challenges specifically, like around disease control or what?
Disease control, moving them through the system. He just referenced kittens, for example.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have like weight and age standards for cats. So specifically, like neonate cats cannot survive without their mother, without 24-hour care. So if a cat comes in and it needs its mother, but it does not have a mother, what we are told by the state we have to do is hold that cat in stray hold for 3 days before we can place it someplace that it could receive 24-hour care.
And we don't have the resources at WAS to provide 24-hour care for those. Basically, they have to be bottle fed every hour to 2 hours, depending upon their age. And so that accounted, for example, we had about 150 of those during the summer months each month. And so they're just very young, they can't live on their own, and we used to, prior to this reinterpretation, be able to transfer those to KHS or one of the rescue partners for a foster to bottle feed.
Are there rescues out there that might be interested in specifically that?
Yes, but again, it's more about being able to legally transfer them until the KDA's thing is.
3 days, right?
3 full business days after the day of intake.
Okay, I mean, coming in and assisting at the shelter for those 3 days.
Could you speak up?
I mean, coming in and assisting at the shelter for those 3 days.
It's just not feasible because you have to feed lots of kittens every 2 hours. And so having volunteers in our shelter 24 hours a day when shelter staff isn't available to monitor and keep those things safe and manageable is just not a feasible option for us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Emily, I'm going to ask you, I'm over here, sorry.
I didn't know where the voice was coming from.
I get a lot of questions about the no-kill shelter and obviously how our rates have gone up significantly. And it kind of speaks to some things that you guys already mentioned, but until the interpretation changes, that's just kind of,
What of the KDA?
yeah. Because that's when our numbers significantly changed. I mean, I know we're taking in more animals, our population is growing, but would you say that is when things kind of changed going, with our euthanasia rates going way higher than they were?
I would say that is definitely an impact of those. Like you said, that was probably affecting at least 1,000 animals a year. There are other factors that impact that rate, and part of that includes just the severe overpopulation that we have. COVID was a big part of that for us. We were already teetering at barely managing the overpopulation where we were at a few years ago when we were in that 90%, what's called a no-kill rate. And I think that we should talk about what no-kill sheltering actually means at some point. But so during COVID, veterinarian services, especially around spay and neuter, were surgical services that were essentially shut down. All medical equipment and supplies were converted to human care. So you think about masks, gloves, equipment, all of the things that veterinarian clinics needed to require were all transferred over to human care needs because of COVID. So that means while we were already teetering on our community having more pets than we can adopt out, complete overpopulation, we stopped spaying and neutering everything for about 1.5 years completely. And that's across the nation, but we know how it affects Wichita. And so I'm going to talk about the impacts of spay and neuter services here shortly. But I think it's like a cat can have 2 to 3 litters a year. A dog can have the same, and those are going to continue to populate. We're just at a serious brink, and it's not until this year that we actually, is the first year we have access to affordable spay neuter services. We have several clinics across Wichita, several of our rescue partners that are doing an influx. We had a small amount of that after COVID. But I would say that we're at the first time in our community to have adequate access to those spay and neuter services. And so that is going to have a huge impact on our population, regardless of us being able to transfer sick animals, which is going to have basically an indication on our euthanasia rates.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Other questions? How am I on time? Because okay. Guys, I tried to fit a lot of information in a short time. Pardon me. Okay, let me remember where I was at. Oh, right. So right where we were at, this is KHS's dog adoption page example. So most of the animals that you are going to see at KHS available for adoption are going to be the animals that have been abandoned at Wichita Animal Services. Like I said, it's about 4,000, which is what they took in last year. They do an excellent job of marketing these animals, both on their social media channels, websites, at events. What people don't always understand is that KHS offers what's called an open adoptions program. That means that there is no adoption application required. Any adult can come in to adopt any pet they choose for themselves or their family. That means while KHS does try to gather as much information as they can about these animals, they need to show an even temperament. KHS doesn't know the environment that they're going into. For example, if children are present or if there are other animals in the home and more. If a dog or cat shows that they're not comfortable being handled, or with any type, or show warning signs during any type of regular handling, that's a good indicator that that animal is going to need more resources before they're ready for adoption. Because KHS is a high volume open adoptions shelter, an animal with a medical or a behavior need are going to be better suited to our rescue partners, where an animal can go into a home with an experienced foster or staff, and based on that animal's breed, behavior, or medical need. Animals that KHS cannot transfer over are animals that are posted on our Trello page. These are also sent out in daily emails to our rescue partners, posted in a Facebook group specifically for our rescue partners. That way they have an easy platform for sharing. And they're also posted in group Facebook chats that we have with them. The Trello pages are public sites. They're intended for our rescue partners who help us find positive outcomes for animals that are in need. We have a dog Trello and a cat Trello. As you can see, they feature the different animals' photos, and they have indicators that let rescues know basically at a glance, like if it has a microchip, where the animal's located, other important information for them. We also then sort it in columns. So the first column that you see are the animals that are most in need. And that essentially means that they are past their deadline that WAS needs them to be able to leave the facility, and they're going to be most at risk. And so that highlights that for our partners. And they can click on each of the profiles. They often have different videos, photos, descriptions of the animal, any information that we can provide. They then in this column, scroll down and then go side to side. So I encourage you, if you want to visit the site, it really is a great tool so that our rescue partners can access any information that they want and then be able to ask questions about it. Anyways, the next one's going to be those direct adoptions we talked about, meaning they're healthy, that it's just a matter, and seem friendly, that it's just a matter of space and resources. The next is going to be those that show those behavior concerns, warning signs. Those will be considered rescue pool only because we want to make sure that they're going to a safe place for the resources they need. Same with medical. They have a medical need, needs to go to a rescue. And then we have other categories like small puppies, heartworms, et cetera. The green categories, those that have been tagged by a rescue. And so this information gets updated several times throughout the day, but that way our rescues have a place that they can go. They know they're getting updated information. They know the status of an animal at any given time, and we can continue to communicate with them through that way. So there are many types of different animal welfare organizations. We have shelters, rescues. Everybody serves a purpose. All of us have a specific niche that we serve, and that is truly for the benefit of the greater welfare of animal needs in our community. Rescue groups are an excellent example of this. We have 95 different rescue partners, and it's always growing. Rescue groups can vary greatly from a very small nonprofit that manages just a couple dozen animals a year to a few dozen animals, to large ones who can help thousands a year. They typically depend on foster families to house their animals, and they typically have a more in-depth adoption application. At rescues, they often are asking you for detailed information about your other pets. They require vet references, the makeup of your house, your yard, and oftentimes they even do home inspections. But they also offer things like additional training for their fosters, training for their adopters, so that way that matchup between animals and people is set up for success. Our rescue partners also do a lot of other things in Wichita regarding animal welfare work. For example, Wichita Animal Services, you guys hear me talk about, they are a huge partner of ours. Not only do they transfer hundreds of animals each year, they operate dozens of programs throughout Wichita. They have a neglect and abuse investigation team that assists our officers. They provide free spay-neuter surgeries, low-cost animal health clinics. They work in neighborhoods for hoarding cases, provide free pet food days, pet houses, blankets, you name it. The point being is that each welfare group has their own unique mission. They serve a specific breed, a specific need, maybe medical needs, and when we work together, that's really what makes us a whole as serving animal welfare in our community. This was when I was referring to just a quick demonstration of how much our daily population in the shelter can fluctuate. On average, we have about 100 cats and 100 dogs in the shelter at any given time. The summer months are always going to be significantly higher, and the winters are going to be slower. However, with 100 new animals brought into the shelter every single week, that population has to turn over quickly. We typically average about 9,000 animals brought into the shelter new each year. The piece I wanted to focus on here was owner reclaim rates. Only 2% of cats, unfortunately, and 25% of dogs are reclaimed. And although that is the national average across for shelters, we can make improvements to our return to owner programs. We can increase those rates, even if marginally. Every life matters, right? So right now, our organization is left with about 85% of the animals brought into the shelter that are abandoned by their owners. And this
If we
is
could-
why, what?
Oh, sorry, just real quick. And the slide before as well. If I remember correctly, it was around 14 or 15 animals just a few years ago. Is that correct? And do we see this number kind of steadying off?
Say this one more time.
How does this compare to
Previous
right
years?
around COVID, the year after COVID, the influx of animals coming through the shelter now? And has this steadied off at about 30 new animals a day?
So there was a massive decrease right around COVID. Lots of things were at play there. I would say pre-COVID, this is about the same numbers. And then there was a massive decrease, and then we've been steadily increasing.
Okay, so the euthanasia rate was lower by a considerable amount before COVID. So is it just we're not seeing people come and take the animals out of the shelter anymore? Is that where?
I think that as a community as a whole, if you take a look at how we've evolved with animal welfare, kind of nationwide and within our community, it has changed a lot since in the last 20 years. And you see a different effect of that. And this is why I want to take some time to talk about the no-kill movement and that 10% point, because that's a major point of attention for a lot of organizations and people that don't always understand a lot about animal sheltering. There is a national organization called Best Friends, and their number one drive, all of their funding, all their lobbying efforts, everything they do is to try to get shelters to be at what's called a no-kill movement. And that kind of started in the 90s. And what is just really drives that attention. And while we needed that at that time, because back then shelters were euthanizing about 50% of their animals, it's not necessarily what they call the most compassionate thing in sheltering today. So the intention of, you have to think about what the actual needs of the community and those animals are, not so much about what that euthanasia rate. You need to look at the individual needs of each animal and what's happening in the community overall. So when we built the two shelters, or started the idea for those back in 2009, I think that we were euthanizing more than half of all of the animals at both facilities. And the idea for that joint campus was so that we could streamline those activities. We could be focused as individual organizations on our specific missions, which helps improve our ability to complete those missions. And so that's where you started to see that steady increase. And then back when I was at KHS, we were in that 90 percentile rate. But what we also saw in that time was the development of rescue partners, that it was becoming a very popular thing. Rescues had existed before, but not like they had before. And so it was a big community push all over the place where rescue groups were building out. People were starting to foster. Adoption was becoming more popular versus it wasn't as popular 10 years prior to that, right? And so we were living in sort of what was a sweet spot, is honestly what I would say. In fact, we saw other states that they were needing animals from us. Their populations were so low because some communities have chosen to provide more stricter spay-neuter laws, different types of programming and things like that. And so we were in a great place. We were able to transfer animals to Colorado. People were adopting a lot more than they are now. There are only so many people in Wichita that can take pets, and we have been adopting out 5,000 to 7,000 animals every year for so many years. Animals don't live that just a short period of time. So we're looking at a place now post-COVID, where we have a surplus of animals. Too many animals are having puppies and kittens. People don't always want them now that they're adults. And so now we're looking at a very different situation. It's not that we're not just hitting that target mark of that 90%. It's that there are too many animals that are in need in our community that don't have somewhere to go. Does that help explain a little bit?
It does. So you're saying To go back 20 years, our euthanasia rate is lower than it was then, but it's higher than it has been in maybe the last 10 years or so because of,
It's higher right now I'd say, than it has been in the last 5 years. And that's really because there's too many animals within our system. And there's more initiatives and more programming and things that we need to do to be able to address that.
thank you.
Emily, I have a quick question. Sorry.
I don't know why your voice keeps coming over here to me, for me.
Sorry. On the return to owner rates or
Yeah.
situations, is any of the non-return to their owner, I guess, due to the financial obligation?
I anticipate so. Some of the stuff I'll talk about in our goals is trying to make improvements to our return to owner programming, exactly what we're doing to help those owners take them back. I know that I personally have talked to a lot of people who have stated that they're just not coming back for their animal because they can't afford to feed it, or because it gets out too many times that they can't afford their fence. Lots of economic reasons are causing people to just not be able to care for their animals, or they've lost their house and moved into an apartment. That's a common one that I have.
But I mean, like, specifically
Our
the
fees, I know.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to address
no,
that
I appreciate
piece,
all
too.
of that. Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
And I do think that the fees are associated with that. I have been working to waive those wherever we can. I've informed our officers that if anyone comes to us and states that they aren't able to afford that, to let me know and to let our rescue partners know. We do have places like Wichita Animal Action League and some private ladies that work to help these people with the fees if they do truly want to get the animal. So anytime somebody expresses at the shelter that they would like their animal back, but the fees are specifically what's getting in their way, we try to find a way to help them.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions before I move on? Pardon me. Okay. So spay-neuter surgeries. I'm always going to be a huge fan of spaying and neutering your pet. I feel like Bob Barker up here. So like I said, we're going to have a typical amount of 9,000 animals enter the shelter. 90% of those are not going to be spayed and neutered. Like we talked, we've got these great graphics from some of our partners. Cats can have 3 litters a year. Not even in 6 months can then they start having more kittens on their own. Thousands of puppies and kittens are born in Wichita every single year. Kansas has hundreds of registered breeders within our state, and we have thousands, literally thousands more of backyard breeders that are not registered. So if you add people that are intentionally breeding cats and dogs, with more than 50% of pregnancies from cats and dogs being unplanned, we're looking at literally an epidemic, an exponential rate of repopulation and overpopulation to an already very stressed system. And like I said, I made a note, but just to cover again, it's really, we are at a great place to have spay and neuter services and resources available to the public. So I encourage the public, if your pet is not spayed and neutered, absolutely reach out to us. We will connect you with partners. We have some that can do it completely free. We have some that can do it as low as $30. And for those that don't income qualify, we have low-cost mobile clinics that come to our parking lot several times a month, and it's like $100. It's just the responsible thing to do if you're a pet owner.
And
I'll
do
preach
they?
on it. Sorry.
Sorry. So they do get spayed or neutered coming out of,
The Kansas Humane Society through our adoption partner, correct. If somebody chooses to reclaim their pet, we do not spay and neuter it, although I heavily encourage it.
so if they get adopted straight out of WAS, do they get,
So KHS are always our adoption partner, so those direct adopts from WAS still go through KHS. It's just that they're called direct adoptions.
how about if they go through rescues?
The law requires that they spay and neuter them if they're going to adopt them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so where was I at? Oh, yes. Everybody's been waiting. Recent projects and changes. So I think that when you guys asked for this, it was sparked due to comments due to our more recent progress and changes at WAS. Councilmember Hoheisel, I know that you asked that I highlight some of our goals. So first I want to talk about the projects and changes that have recently happened. When Captain Purcell was joined WAS and I was at KHS, I had invited the K-State Shelter Medicine Program to review the operations and programs at KHS. Captain Purcell had recently been assigned to WAS, and he was eager to make changes. So he spent his whole first year learning as much as he could. He even attended shelter medicine classes at K-State. He worked closely with their heads of their veterinarian program and invited students to, under their professor's supervision, to complete an audit and recommendations for the Wichita Animal Shelter. He then worked to implement many of these recommendations as he could while working on other projects. So those included getting Wi-Fi installed at the shelter, which I know may seem small, but it's a huge deal because there aren't mobile services in our shelter walls. And having access to internet and to those devices is critical for many of the other changes that we need to do to improve our efficiency and effectiveness. He also had a dishwasher installed, which saves hours daily from hand washing dishes and improving sanitation. He had a new chemical distribution system installed that is super important for us killing zoonotic diseases specifically. It's one of the huge accomplishments that he started was starting vaccinations for animals on intake at WAS. This has exponentially reduced disease for animals at both shelters. He also completed massive changes in our record management systems, moving the shelter from time-consuming and error-prone paper processes to utilizing our software in meaningful ways. He spent significant time improving the integrity of our data and reporting system. Over the years at WAS, leadership has changed pretty often just due to the nature of how the police department operates. But once software changes are made that the different leadership individuals would create, sometimes these changes were made without understanding the subsequent impact of the data streams later on, and then how that would impact our reports and tracking later. These were things that were always well-intentioned, like creating more subcategories, but without consistency over the years and a deep understanding of our specific software, sometimes it made things messy and error-prone. So he began what was a very long journey, and will continue to be for us, on improving the use of our software. He and I have continued this work in several areas of software and operations. We began providing intentional quarterly trainings with staff to improve job knowledge and improve practices. Some of the projects that I've taken on my own include requesting cell phones for our ACOs. This has improved our picture quality, the speed of our investigations in the field, and will improve our return to owner opportunities. I have revised our hiring, testing, onboarding, and re-implemented weekly staff meetings. We have been onboarding our newer administrative aide that you guys provided for us, who has an essential role in our rescue communications. She's been addressing a lot of inventory issues, which is streamlining our ability to care for animals and assisting in many of my major projects. We have begun field equipment audits and added new tools to our disposal. I completed initial audits on our shelter cleaning procedures, implemented new procedures and onboarded our new kennel tech team. We are still working through changes and finding, of course, the best way to effectively and efficiently complete these duties, and plan to make additional revisions as they come up. The things that we've accomplished still require monitoring and adjustments. Changing operations in a 24-hour facility that works with the public and live animals requires time to see the true outcome, and really requires our ability to adapt and adjust as needed.
What is your staffing level with available positions right now?
I have 2 open positions currently, and we've completed interviews. They should be hired shortly.
Is that kennel techs?
Animal control officers.
Animal control officers?
Yeah,
Okay.
the last animal control officer we hired had a personal medical issue, and we had a 30-year retirement celebrated last week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So projects I'm actively working on include a mobile application of our software for the ACO phones that will increase our efficiency and improve the documentation we are able to complete. I'm still in the process of working on communication materials and improving those information systems for the public. A project that Purcell started was a joint venture with the Kansas Humane Society to speed up our intakes and vaccinations and animal assessments. Our first shot at that new protocol and its implementations had some challenges due to the physical constraints at WAS and the high volume of intakes that we face. So Aaron and I have been working in our teams on our next set of revisions, which we hope to implement soon. I'm working on an owner resource center in the lobby at Wichita Animal Services and exploring more return to owner programs to increase those return to owner rates. We're in early development of a new field training protocol for our ACOs, and this November we'll be starting on training and protocol development for animal abuse and neglect investigations. We're excited for our new pressure washer systems to be installed. I can't tell you how great properly functioning equipment can make in our ability to do our jobs. As you can see, we have a lot going on, and our priorities remain with the animals and the people that are in need every single day in those more emergent situations. I do have to manage my own excitement and my own patience because I have to ensure that the pace of these changes are in order with normal change management practices. I tend to run a little bit faster than what is actually feasible in an organization. So each of these projects are going to take some time to complete, but I'm looking forward to the long-term impact that they're going to have for us.
Where are we in the improvements that the state wanted us to make? Are we just about through with that?
I don't know why I'm having trouble hearing you. Could you say that one more time?
Sorry, where are we with the changes that the state are?
At the
they're making
state?
us- Yeah.
You mean the regulations we were just talking about with Aaron?
No, the ones caulking
the
around
kennel
the
caulking.
kennels, yeah.
Yeah, we're finishing our last set of kennels this week, actually. So hopefully that caulk will be cured and dried, and we'll be operating at normal capacity in about 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm going to interrupt real quick.
absolutely.
We were scheduled till 11 o'clock today. We're running a little long. Would the council's will to go to 11:30? We can get a little bit of peoples and places, wrap this up, and then we can go to peoples and places. Would that be all right?
Yep, my next
Everybody
slide,
okay?
my last slide.
Yeah, if Mike would stop talking so much.
We had till 11, if you like exception, but we can go, if we go 11:30, I think we,
So make
if
the
that's okay.
motion.
I apologize, Vice Mayor. So Shanna's contacted the search committee for the executive session, and so they're aware that we're running a little bit late, and they're prepared to go at 11:30.
Okay.
So would that require a motion?
No,
No? Okay.
no, no, okay. So we'll kind of plan on 11:30 then. Okay, continue quickly.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Pardon me. Okay, so future projects. A few of the projects I want to focus on in the future include continued audits and optimization of each department. Some of our greatest opportunities to save more animal lives and help more people are going to be improving the efficiency and effectiveness with the staff and the tools that we do have. We have a tool with our software called Quick Kennel that will help us improve the accuracy and speed of a lot of our data entry and manual processes. We're going to be focusing on return to owner rates in the field as well, which is a different type of return to owner program. And looking at, like I said, helping people avoid related fees if we can return them in the field versus bringing them back into the shelter. We would like to improve the methods of which people can have access to important information that they need. Researching and addressing our cat overpopulation concerns is a big goal of mine. Implementing an animal enrichment program, and of course, completing the revision of our standard operating procedures and the development of new training materials. Once we can ensure that our staff are operating with clarity and efficiency, we plan to continue our exploration of a volunteer program to see if there are ways we can amplify those resources through that. So that's all I've got, guys. I appreciate it. Are there any final questions?
Any final questions, Mike?
I'm just disappointed that you didn't bring one of the dogs today like we normally get to the press conference.
Guys, how am I supposed to manage the talking and the dogs?
Oh, I could have taken care of the dog for you.
Oh,
so
okay.
Thank you for your presentation.
Next time.
No, thank you for your presentation. I know it's been a big topic, so we appreciate it. And we do appreciate all the questions, too.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.